listen up, y'all. It's the queen of automation, Megan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for complicated.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk why technology is only good when it works, how I help you make it work. Today, I'm very excited to introduce Ryan Sullivan because we have been chatting probably for a couple of months, right? Right, Ryan? Yeah, a couple of months on and off. And he is a podcast strategist, which makes this a perfect conversation to have since we are on a podcast. So I've picked his brain a lot, and he's given me some tips and tricks. And I'm going to let him introduce himself because he's a really cool guy, and you have to go check out his content on LinkedIn for sure. And his videos are off the charts. Like, they make my videos look really bad. So with that being said, tell us where you're tuning in from and say hi to everybody. And then, of course, pimp yourself out.
Oh, well, thank you, Megan. Appreciate it. If you're the queen of automation, my goal is to be the king of podcasting. So we're getting there. What I say is,
there we go.
I'm more at Prince level, hence the podcast principles. But yeah, so I'm Ryan. I make music and podcasts. I also happen to have a company where we help businesses create podcast strategies that do one of two things: either generate them more revenue or decrease their marketing spend so they can save money, and because everybody wants to do that. So that's what I do. I'm a musician, I'm a rapper, I'm a DJ. I have two businesses, and that's a little bit about me, and we can double click on any of those. But for sure, for why we're here today is we're talking about podcasting, we're talking about ops, we're talking about, automation, all those good things. And so I appreciate you having.
Yes, I'm so glad that you agreed to do this because this is going to be a great conversation. But first, we're going to talk about the thing that most of the people that I've brought on have a very like-minded thought process about this. We're going to talk about work-life balance. And I put the air quotes on there because I don't believe in it. We all have, it's one life. Like, you can't separate, it's one, you're one person, you have one life. It's, I think John, and now of course I'm going to forget his last name, but we had a guest on, probably it was like number 2 or 3. And he said the best thing I've heard, it was like work-life integration. I was like, see, now that makes sense. Because it's integrated, right? Like, you can't separate. I don't know how people do that. If they do, I'd like to learn how to do that because cloning myself sounds really awesome or scary.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like, how do you think about work-life balance or integration or whatever the fuck you want to call it? Because it's like, it's just too cliche of a word or term. I think people throw it around now, and it's used too much often and really doesn't make sense if you're an entrepreneur. It really doesn't.
Well, especially in that case. What I like is what I've hired business coaches, life coaches, and spent a lot of money on coaching, and I really believe in that. And what my coaches have called it is harmony, right? So I look at things in the lens of music, right? There's interludes, right? There's hits, there's slow songs, right? And so that's why I like the harmony versus instead of balance, because balance is theoretical, but harmony is realistic. It's practical, right? So harmony is just the thing that you do fitting in next to each other. And that's about as good as you can get it, right? Balance is, and this is a quote that Gary Vee told me, because I've asked Rob Dyrdek and Gary Vee, two of my mentors, this question, right? And Gary Vee's exact quote was, well, balance is theoretical, right? And so I agree. And then I hire my friend Adam, who's my business coach, and he's like, no, it's more like harmony, right? So that's how I look at it. Now, they did break my beliefs because I really thought that things could be separate, right? And that's why when I tell people what I do, I say I make music and podcasts because that's what I do, right? Like, I'm an artist. I have 2 businesses, but I'm an artist. That's who I am, right? I'm a creative, and that's why I'm here. That's why I've been able to do what I've done. So a lot of times when it comes to work-life balance, you almost have to go back to who you really are. And if you know that, then you really don't have to worry about balance as much, in my opinion.
Exactly. You said it perfect. That's a new one. I like harmony. That's a good one. I haven't heard that before, but it's totally agree. And I was the same way. Like, when you become an entrepreneur and you decide to take this leap, I'm from corporate, right? So like I started in corporate America, and when I took the leap, it's like, yeah, I'm going to separate it, right? Are you kidding me? I'm sitting in my home office. There is no separation. Like, I'm
Yep.
surprised, and I'm knock on wood, I'm not going to jinx it, but like my dog is usually sitting back here on the couch, and every time I come on my podcast, she has to go outside.
Yep.
Like, really? Like I'm like,
I'm
oh,
with
hang
you.
on,
I
I'm
mean,
gonna go let
the
dog
only
out.
reason
Yeah, I mean,
I do what you do, I
it's
have a
life.
studio. Yeah, I have a studio in my home, in my apartment, and
Yeah.
thank God for having the best girlfriend in the world for literally allowing me to do that. But like, it's real. Like, I would still be in my dad's garage. You know what I'm saying?
I
And
mean,
like now
and
I
that's the
can
thing.
support
Yeah.
myself. You know, that is for sure. I mean, it's not close to home. I'm at home.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what I mean, though. Like, it's just so ridiculous to kind of like, now looking back, like 10 years ago, why did I think that this was going to be a separate, like, it's you are one person, one body, one, like, everything. You work on work things and you work on personal things, but it's still one life.
Well, that's just how
And
people explain it, right? Like, that's what
yeah,
we've been preordained to believe, is that there is a balance. That's what the cell
Mhm.
is. The cell is that there's gonna be this balance, right? Like, when you're going through the motions, like when you're
Mhm.
once you get into corporate, then you're like, oh yes, there's balance. 8 hours a day work, then I come home, then I do
Yeah.
this. And it's like, that's what but then you live that life and you hate it and it sucks, because
It's like the fake
the only
news.
people who propagate that life are
Yeah.
people that have accepted the reality of that life, in which we
100%.
haven't accepted that reality, because there are other ways to do it, but so you
Exactly.
can't blame anybody for thinking about it like that, because that's just how we've been brought up to
Yeah.
what we've been brought up to think.
Society teaches us that, right? And especially like society's like, you got to go to college, and then you get the corporate job, and then you do it, like it's this step by step. And if you go outside of that kind of funnel of life, it's like you experience something totally different, and it's great. I think it's great. I always tell people to, now when I like when I'm talking to other business partners or like networking friends, like people that I meet, I'm like, build a life. Stop trying to build a business and build a lifestyle, right? The business should fit into your lifestyle. The business is a tool to create the lifestyle that you love, right? Just like money is a tool. You can always create more of it. You can always go find more, be an Uber driver. I don't care. Sell ice cream. Like, you can always get more money, but it's a tool, right? And it's crazy. It's just so crazy to me that there's still so much of that out there. But you're right. You can't blame them, because that's what they've been taught to. This is how it is, right? Like, you go to work 8 to 5, and then you go home, and it's two separate things, even though it's really not, even in that case. But whatever. We'll move on. We beat this to a dead. Very cool. Harmony. We're going to say harmony now. Write it down, Andrea. Harmony. Work-life harmony. I like it. I like it. We're going to use it. Yeah, let's talk ops. Let's get geeky. So, what I love about you, and I've had conversations with you obviously in the past, is that you are very kind of data driven, automation driven, systems driven, right? Like, it's really kind of easy when you think about it. At the end of the day, anybody can get a microphone and put up a camera and start a podcast, right? But let's talk about the reality of what I just said, right? Like, yeah, sure, you can do that, but there's way more that goes into it behind the scenes that, or should go into it if you actually want it to be successful, right? You want to talk about it? Tell me all about it.
So, yes, the problem is how easy it looks, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with
Easy
automation.
button.
Automation everything should be easy. That's the point of automation, is that you don't have to think about it once you set it up, but setting it up that's the thing. That's the brutal.
Yeah.
And then maintaining it. Podcast is no different. That's why I love talking to people like yourself who get it, right? Because the success of the system is completely determined by the people who set the goals as to what the system should do, right? And
Ding,
so
ding, ding, ding.
There you go. So same thing with the podcast. There's a lot of people a lot of founders, CEOs, people who are extremely successful, who then set out of, now I'm going to make this podcast, right? I have this business. I have, hello, my network. There's so many amazing people. Great. Now what? Right? So then they do a podcast for 2 years and they go, are we even making any money from this thing? And so it's because people who are non-podcast experts are trying to be podcast experts. It's a problem with everything, right?
Yep.
And so it's not that you can't learn it yourself, but somebody has to learn it, right? And as somebody with a successful business, not sure if you're going to want to take your nights and weekends to just figure out how this podcasting thing works, right? And so that's where we come in. So all I'm trying to do is there's a few things, but the one thing is fixing the failure rate, right? And that's 90%. Same thing with business, right? Anything that's hard, there's a high failure rate.
Yeah, first 5 years, what's the statistic? It's like the first 5 years, like small businesses, it's like something crazy, like 92% of businesses fail in the first X amount of whatever. And
yeah, because you're trying to figure it out.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah. And I'm going to assume that people that hire help or, who don't try to go in it alone probably have a better success rate, right? So we can get into the weeds. I'm down to double click on any of this, but that's really the overarching kind of highlight is, podcasting. Here's the thing that we don't have to worry about is results. We've gotten every single result. It doesn't matter. What result do you want from podcasting? We can show you how to get there. The hard part is deciding, right? And so that's basically what we do.
I just think it's really cool and you just echoed everything I always talk about with people when they're trying to simplify their operations, because that's what we do, right? Like we're trying to simplify your operations so that you don't spend 7 days a week, 24 hours a day working. Like you have a successful business, you have a successful product or service, and you're making some money, but you literally sit at your desk all day and you never leave, so you never get to enjoy the money. What the hell kind of life is that?
Well, and
why would you want to build yourself a job?
Let me ask you this too.
Awful.
Let me ask you this: do you enjoy podcasting?
I love it. I think it's great. I love having these conversations. And the first time we talked, I was like, "Yep, I'm going to keep doing this," because it's something, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was funny because somebody asked me, "Where are you going to continue the podcast?" Or when I know what it was, I told you how many episodes we have. Coming up on 30. And you were like, holy shit, you did that many episodes in 1 year and you didn't quit? I was like, yeah, this is great. I absolutely love talking to founders. I love talking to owners. Like, this is fantastic. And so the question I got asked a few weeks ago was, are you going to keep doing it? Is it making you any money? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing it because I love it. I absolutely love it. And if I will figure out a way for it to either make me money or I will figure out a way to make money elsewhere or like break even, like, right? Like get five sponsors.
Other marketing, right? What other marketing are you going to do for fun? Do you do SEO for fun? I don't.
Oh God.
Do you analyze trends for fun? I don't. Do you optimize your website for fun? I don't. But podcasting is the only form of marketing that's actually. See, that's what I'm saying. But there you go, right? So then you could talk about that. But the thing is, there's no other form of marketing that people do for fun and actually lose money, right? It's like, that's the thing with podcasting. It's like, it can be, that's why I asked you if you like it, right? Because you're a podcaster now, right? But imagine if you could just do this and then that's your marketing. That's possible. It's not that crazy.
My impression is the people who are not going to be successful or not enjoy this. And that's the thing, is it's different for everybody, right? Like if you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't start a podcast. Like that's not going to be your thing. Cool. We'll find you something else, or you find somebody else within your team or within whatever and have them do the podcast, right? Like have somebody else be the face. There's a way.
Well, you could you could cold call all day. Like you could say I could tell you cold call, do 20 cold calls a day. You can do it, but you're not going to do it. Neither am I, right? So the problem is Everything works. SEO works, cold calling works, cold email works, Instagram works, Facebook works, TikTok
It
works,
all
LinkedIn works.
if you
It
do it.
all works. That's the problem. The thing is, what you're saying,
Yeah.
you have to find the one that works for you. For me, I have no problem talking to a camera, and I would rather just talk to the camera than my team handle the rest. Boom, that's literally 90% of my content, right? But that's how I want to do it. But that's the thing. Like you're saying, you just got to find that thing that works for you, but you have the personality and the interest and the curiosity. And so great, I can't teach that. But then after that, we can look at, all right, great. How can we optimize it? How can we fill the funnel? And that's where the content marketing.
It's so great. And that's why it's so cool to talk to you, because it's all about, it's first of all, words and user experience are the most important part of every business, right? Because the words that you say, they are your brand, they are your business, right? You either piss people off, you whatever, right? Like, but the words are the most important thing. And then there's the user experience. If you have like the prettiest looking website or the best podcast in the entire world, and the back end of your podcast is broken, or your email deliverability is broken and you're hitting the spam box, you're dead. Your podcast could be great, but nobody's in it. Or your onboarding, right? The onboarding experience. How was your onboarding experience? You got some nice emails, right? Like, it's simple. It's really easy to set up. I think it's easy to set up, but that's because I'm a nerd. But it doesn't really, at the end of the day, it doesn't take a lot to make somebody's user experience awesome. Like, it really doesn't. People are pretty simple. As long as you're not like doing something really stupid to piss them off, like, just make their experience easy to use and make it fantastic and personalize it. And I don't know. It's just, it's at the end of the day, everything, no matter what you do, like you said, everything works if you put the time and effort into it. And I feel like for podcasting, people start it and think it's going to be a good idea, and then they just stop. Because they think it costs too much money, they think it's not working, they're not trying. For me, if I like something, like I like this, I'm going to try 500 different things to make sure that this is successful, because that's what I do, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I think we as entrepreneurs do, right? Like, if you're an entrepreneur at heart, no matter what platform you're on, right? You're going to figure out how to make it work. You figure it out. And you fail, and then you get back up and you do it again. And you do it again. You get hit in the face like 10,000
Yep.
with a bat. You get run over by a bus, and then you get back up and you go do it again.
Yeah. And listen, why am I hiring anybody? It's because they already did all that shit. They already failed all the things, right?
Exactly.
I failed all the podcasts. Like, you want me to, I'll tell you, like, the first 3 that I did all failed. Like, I'm talking, they shut it all down. They're like, it's not working. It didn't work. Ryan, sorry, your shit didn't work, bro. And I was like, all right, well, yep. I think you didn't work. So then I went out and got another client, and I tried it again. Yep. And then one kind of worked. And I was like, okay, this one's kind of working. But that's what happened. My boss in 2019 hired me to do his podcast for him. I did 16 episodes, and he said, well, it's not working, so we're going to take you off of it. I'm going to do it. And then he never did it, and it shut down. And guess what? Yeah, it didn't work, because he said it wasn't working. Like, if you say something's not working, that means it's not going to work, right?
Well, mindset,
but instead, if we say, how could it work better? Or maybe when will it work, right? And so that's the thing, right? We've failed all the podcasts. Now, we've also have very extremely successful podcasts, right? That make millions of dollars. And so that's great, but I went through the lumps, right? And that's why I'm hiring you, right? If I need help with setting up my automations, because it's like, that this one software doesn't work. I don't know that, right? Well, that actually doesn't connect with Zapier that well because of this backend thing. All of those little things, like, that's why you're hiring anybody. What a podcast does is it shows the world that you do know what you say, what you claim to know, right? Like, that's what this podcast shows people. It goes, Ryan knows his podcast stuff, and Megan knows her automation stuff, right? Or her systems or her ops stuff, right? It just shows you based on how we talk and what we say. And if you don't do it, then the competitor who does do it, who they talk, they might be assholes, but they have a podcast and they're educating people. And if you just have two identical service providers, which there's not much differentiation in any market, so that's pretty common, and that one of them has a podcast, the one with the podcast is reaching people at a deeper level than the one without, right? And so that's how it works.
And to piggyback off of that, all you people out there who are complaining that you don't have enough content, ta-da! Guess what?
That's a wild thing to say.
25 minutes long. Every podcast I record is 25 minutes long. My awesome team takes that, turns that into like 20 videos that are 60 seconds or less, sometimes 30 seconds or less. And then I have content for a year. Like,
Yep.
you know, and it goes on YouTube. It goes on Instagram Reels. It goes on LinkedIn. Because what am I going to do after this? I'm going to, when it's your week, and the episode goes live on, on the podcast, it's out to the world. You're going to get a LinkedIn post. We're going to tag you in it. You're going to get an email. And so then what we do is we provide our guests 15 short clips of them talking that they can use for their content. Like, this is like a no-brainer to me. Like, everybody knows video is huge right now. I'm creating video content. Andrea could probably tell you, my producer could probably tell you, like, we have folders and folders and folders of video.
Yep.
Like, we just record video stuff of me talking all the time, right? Why would you not do that? I don't know.
Yeah, and
it's
then,
crazy.
yeah, for sure. But then what if you could do it and then you literally just know what's going to happen? Like, that's the problem with organic content, is that nobody's there, that nobody's saying, yes, post. They say, yeah, post. And you go, post what? And they're like, anything. And you're like, anything? And they're like, yeah. Okay. Then you do that. And then like a few people kind of come in. And then, but then you go, yeah, but like, yeah, I got a few. But what do I do now? The problem is there's no system. Yeah. So if you develop a strategy and a system, then you can guarantee results. And we can guarantee results from organic content. Why? Because I have the data. I have all the data to prove it, and I have everything. I have case studies, data, whatever you want. But that's the thing. Just posting doesn't actually really do it. It does more than not posting. But then once you add a system that fills the entire customer journey, like what you were saying, then you can literally just essentially guarantee the results from the organic content, and it's repeatable.
The thing about building systems, okay, I'm you and. For all my people who have listened to me and listened to this podcast, it's like a broken record, but I'm going to keep saying it. Systems does not mean software. Okay? A system is a repeatable thing that you do over and over and over again. If you, like Ryan, if you get one podcast client and whatever system he puts in place and it works, if it works one time, you can make it work a second time and a third time and a fourth time. And a fifth time, you repeat the system. You put a system in place that is you either use automation and automate the damn system, or you throw people at it. I'm sorry, but I'm so sick of hearing like people are like, oh, it's too expensive. I can't afford to hire somebody. Yes, you can, because I can tell you how much time you're wasting doing XYZ when you put a person doing XYZ on that, and you now have 10 extra hours to do whatever money-making task, or whatever it may be. Like, that is a system. People want to automate something, and I keep telling them, which is super funny. You're going to laugh at this, right? The queen of automation is telling you not to automate. Do not automate something just to automate it. Are you kidding me? Come on. Right? Like the same thing. Like, you don't just put automation in place, we're going to automate that. Why? What's the end goal?
Yep.
Sometimes a human.
I tell more people to not podcast than I do to podcast. Because nobody's not, because 90%.
You're not going to be good at it.
Yeah, no, not, well, here's the thing. If you pay me, it's funny because you need to pay people for them to be honest with you. It's kind of weird, but you're not going to get any, but you're not going to get any real advice for free, right? Because people don't want to hurt your feelings. So what we do is we tell clients what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. I'm not your coach. I'm not your babysitter. I'm not your friend. That's not my job. My job is to literally solve your content problems. And if that requires me saying maybe somebody else needs to be the face of this, then I have no problem saying that as long as you're a client.
Absolutely.
Right? But I think what happens is The problem is people, back to your point about automating everything.
Oh, yeah.
If you ask them why 3 times, why did you automate this? Because this, but why? Well, because they can't get to level 3 of the why they're doing it. The reason why people do random content, the reason why people do random automations, and the reason why people test stuff is because they don't have a strategy. The strategy is not a plan. A strategy is a list of priorities in an order, right? To your point, a system is the repeatable processes within that strategy, and then the plan is the actions you take, right? So that's the problem, though. If we had a strategy, we would know exactly what to automate and when to automate it. But we are all, again, it's people trying to do your job who don't know anything about it. It's people launching a podcast who don't know anything about podcasts. Well, in that case, that's why you're wondering why nobody's listening to it, right? So,
and I'll be honest,
that's it.
I'll be honest, that was the reason that you and I had our first conversation, because I didn't know I don't know anything about podcasting. This is why I go out and find people like Ryan, so when I first started the podcast, I had a friend named Travis who was on LinkedIn all the time, and I literally paid him. And he told me step by step what to do, how to set it up, exactly what I needed to do. And he literally babysat me and held my hand and step by step. Don't do this, do this. Don't do this, do this. This is what you're going to want. This is I'm going to give you recommendations for mics. I'm going to give you if this is what your goal, And I was like, done. Best money I ever spent, because otherwise I would have spent however many hours researching mics, researching ring lights, researching all of the things that I didn't need to research because somebody else has already done it. Like, why would I do that? That's ridiculous. I think the best thing I heard a couple weeks ago was there was a statistic, and of course I'm going to forget what it was. Like the amount of money spent, I don't even know. You know what? I'm not even going to try because I can't remember the statistic. But it's like the amount of time humans waste on the things they don't know how to do, like learning the things they don't know how to do, and then complain that their business isn't growing. It was and I don't remember what the statistic is, but it was really, really bad. Cool. Education's awesome. You do that on your own time. Like me, I'm a super nerd, right? Love technology. Do I do it in the middle of when I'm supposed to be doing stuff for my team? No. Do I do it in the middle of when I'm supposed to? No. You know what I do on Friday night when I'm sitting in front of the TV with my kids and my family? Because I really think TV is a waste of time. I have my laptop open and I'm playing with new technology. I'm like, ooh, look at this shiny new toy. Ooh, look at this. And then I come back to my team and I'm like, guys, look at this. And they're like, Megan, stop buying things. Stop it. And then I'm like, reality check. Damn it. You mean I can't buy this new piece of software that we absolutely don't need? And then, but there are ways. You can figure out ways to do the education. If you want to DIY stuff, go for it, right? Who are you and I? Ryan and I are
let's take me as a case study.
You want to DIY it? Go for it. But you have to know that if you're DIYing, it's going to take you longer, okay? If you want to do that, awesome. But you need to understand that is a choice, and don't complain about the time it takes you to grow because you're choosing to do it, you're choosing to do everything yourself. That's great. Awesome. Go for it. That's awesome. I'm glad for you. But don't complain when it takes you a year longer to get to where you want to be because you're educating yourself. That's just the way it is. It's not an easy button. Hiring people isn't an easy button. That's what people also need to realize.
The easy button is a made up concept. There is no easy button for anything. It doesn't exist. It doesn't. It's not real. Life isn't a video game. Life isn't a Staples commercial.
Right, exactly. If we all had that big red, we'd be hitting it all the time, and we'd all be bazillionaires. It'd be great. Let's figure that out.
Exactly. Sounds
good. Going back to what you said too, you said, oh man, when you were talking about the repeatable processes and stuff like that, and the strategy, right? So first of all, strategy is also not an execution plan, right? So the strategy is here. Right? The strategy is, at the end of the day, what's your outcome? What's your goal? What does success look like? Success looks like this for me. I'm starting a podcast and I want to do this because, or I'm going to do this by this date because I want this outcome. I need to be able to measure success. I'm a super data nerd. If you cannot measure what you're doing, you need to stop working on it like right now. Like, why? If
Yep.
you are not measuring what you're working on, how do you never know when you get the, like, how do you know if it's successful if you're not measuring it? Like, I don't understand that at all. Like, that makes no sense to me. So you're just doing shit to do shit, like throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and then you're like, oh, that was successful. How do you know that? Well, I don't know. Well, then stop doing that. Like, don't do that. But you said it. Like, strategy, you have to put the strategy in place. You have to know what success looks like. And that is not an execution plan. Then you have to turn that into the execution plan of, like, here are the steps to get to that. Like, I don't know. Ridiculous craziness there's in this world, right?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the problem that we ran into, which was, are we helping people launch a podcast, or are we connecting them with their ideal prospects? And so I now do not work on any podcast that's not for business. So, because nobody can help you do that. If you say,
Nope.
I want to become the next, there's nobody in the world that can help you. And anybody who claims to help you become the next Rogan or you name it is a scam artist. So I've had so many people who are like, all right, we want to do this cultural podcast and we're looking at probably millions of views and, we're probably going to go viral and we're going to blow it up. I tell them,
Great.
I say, listen, I know
do
people who know how to do this stuff and they will never tell you, because number one, they worked for 20 hours a day for 3 years and I watched them. And then number two, that doesn't exist, right? So it's like, yeah, it's brutal. I mean, the problem is in media, for some reason, founders they disconnect. They go, yeah, everything for me is dollars and cents. And then I'm like, okay, good. And then they're like, yeah, but we're going to launch this podcast and it's going to be so much fun and cool because I know all these cool people. And I'm like, yeah, but what about the dollars and cents? And they're like, what do you mean? It's just going to work. It's going to work, right? Like, for some reason, the logic for business owners, it applies to things. If it's a thing they don't know or believe in, they're like, dollars and cents, we can't do it. But if it's a thing that their ego is going to be their ego is going to be pumped up by, then they're like, who cares? And then it's just very funny, how that works. But that's human nature, right? We're always fighting against ourselves, really, right?
We really do. Like, everything is there's so many different ways to do things correctly. Like, there's no one way to do everything. Like you're going to do something different than I'm going to do something. And this person over here is going to do it different than we do. Like, it's just the way it is. And, the whole, like, blueprint roadmap, like, era, like, this shit, like, I'm going to get a lead magnet and it's going to tell me the exact blueprint I need to. Are you kidding? Do you really think that's going to work? Come on. Like, and but the coaching industry, it has taken over the world, and there are awesome coaches out there. There are really good coaches, but the really bad ones have destroyed the coaching industry.
Yeah, man. If we could talk about
they're just taking people's money, and you're never going to get growth out of it. Like, they're taking people's money.
Yeah.
It's just a scam.
Here's the thing.
It really sucks.
This is a video. This is something that I heard recently, which was perfect. Have you ever seen Michael Phelps sell swimming lessons?
I mean,
I haven't. But no. So, okay. If you don't mind, if Grant Cardone is selling $10,000, $20,000, but he's a successful businessman, interesting. You see Elon Musk selling courses? Nope. So, listen, the coaching industry is very funny. So this is a fun topic, right? So we don't have to go too crazy on it. But
ridiculous.
It is wild, right? But the real people, like the actual successful, I don't know about you, all the most successful people I know, nobody even knows that they're successful. Like, they wear blue jeans and t-shirts and they're fucking multimillionaire, billionaires, whatever, right? So, like, That's the thing. But when you are naive, now me and you are not naive anymore. We used to be. We used to see numbers and coaching things and go, oh my God,
Yep.
that looks amazing. And then we bought
Yeah,
it,
let
and
me
then it
buy
wasn't
that
really
for
that good.
$5 and I'll make $2 million off it. Yeah, woo!
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Give
the
me a
thing,
break.
right? But that's why I moved from that. That's why I moved. I don't want to be. Listen. Do I coach? Yes, I have coaching clients, right? Like most business owners do. They take their own
Yeah,
clients. Like I have my own
for sure.
clients, and that's fine because it works, right? So I do coaching, and we did podcast coaching for years, but that's why I moved to strategy, because it was just higher leverage, and it's just better for everybody.
It
But
is.
if you want to coach in anything, the good thing is that you can get one for anything. So
I mean, yeah,
literally
they're
anything you
everywhere.
want.
We can do. I'll bring you back on, and we'll do a whole episode on the operations of coaching and like the scamminess of whatever. We'll have to decide if we want to go down that rabbit hole, because it's like
No
it's a
problem. I
huge
got
rabbit
it.
hole. But this has been so awesome. Tell everybody where they can find you for sure, because I want them to go out and check out your content, obviously on LinkedIn, but I'm gonna let him tell you where you can go reach him and contact him.
Sure. Yep. So Ryan R. Sullivan, if you put the R in the middle, that's better. I normally come up. There's a lot of other Ryan Sullivans out there, and I'm trying to beat them all. So just put the R. So you can Google that, and then I'll come up. LinkedIn's my main platform. So if you're a nerd like us, then hop on there, and it's really cool. And I post every day. If not, then I have a podcast called The Ryan Sullivan Show. Yes, I know, very creative. And I have a YouTube channel under the same exact name. Tip basically my name, and you'll find my stuff. And then here's the thing. If you're ready for a podcast, or maybe you want to figure out if you are ready, then just let me know and we can talk, and
For sure.
we'll go there.
You should
Those are the
definitely reach out to
resources
him.
that
He's
we
got
have.
some really cool stuff. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We'll put all your
This has been
information in the show
very cool.
notes too.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome. The energy is unmatched. That's why you're really good at this.
It's gonna be great, and we're gonna put all your information in the show notes so people can just click and link. We'll do all the work for you. If you're seeing the show notes, you'll be able to just click to all the places to find him. But I highly encourage you to go check out his content, because, like I said, his videos are awesome. He's doing a great job. I can't wait to watch the pivot. I didn't even know you were pivoting. Like I knew him as a coach, so this is really cool. I can't wait to watch the journey and hear all about it. We'll bring you back on in like 6 months or whatever, and you can tell us all about it, because that'll be really, really fun. That's all the time we've got for today, guys. Remember, technology is only good when it works, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Peace.